Hi guys, we are once again playing Clues by Sam. It is a tricky one today again, but I'm looking forward to it. I like the harder ones. I like that it's getting harder earlier in the week. And if you don't know what Clues by Sam is, it's a daily logic puzzle game where you have 20 people who may be criminals or innocents, and they give you clues, and you gotta use those clues to do no guessing but figure out what each person is. Now, I can already see a peek of a clue, but if you want to try the game before watching, you can check the link in the description. Otherwise, let's start now. Now, Wanda is telling us that Kyle doesn't have any innocent neighbors in row 3. Kyle is in row 3 himself, and he has 2 other neighbors in row 3, but none of them are innocent. So, both criminals. And we don't need Wanda's clue anymore. Now Janet tells us that Eve and Flora have 2 innocent neighbors in common. Eve and Flora have 4 neighbors in common total, and 2 of them are innocent. But we still don't know who. And Logan tells us that there's an odd number of criminals neighboring Eve. Eve has 5 neighbors total. One of them is Flora herself. And we know that Eve already has 1 criminal neighbor, and she's gonna have 1 more that she shares with Flora. So that's gonna be 2, and 2 is an even number, so Flora herself has to be a criminal for us. And we don't need Logan's clue anymore, do we? I guess we don't. Now Flora tells us there's only 1 innocent above Ruby. Where's Ruby? Oh, so that tells us that either Kyle or Bruce are innocent. And it also tells us that Amy is the other innocent that Eve and Flora share as neighbor. What else? I guess we don't need Flora's clue anymore. Now, Amy tells us there are more criminals than innocents above Wanda. Ooh, since we know there's 2 criminals above Wanda already, because one of them is Flora and the other one's gonna be either Kyle or Bruce, Ruby has to be a criminal too, because if she were to be an innocent, we would have 2 criminals and 2 innocents, and that is the same number, not more criminals. So Ruby has to be a criminal. And Amy doesn't tell us anything anymore. Ruby tells us that Kyle is one of Hilda's 3 innocent neighbors. Kyle is here. Okay, so now we know that Kyle is innocent. And because of that, we know that Bruce is a criminal. And we also know that Hilda has 2 more innocent neighbors among the 8 total that she has. So we have 2 more to find out, besides Kyle. So we're gonna leave Ruby's clue here. Now Bruce tells us that exactly 1 guard has an innocent directly below them. We have 2 guards here, Celia and Daniel, and we also have Bruce. All of the guards are here. I don't think I ever saw more than 3 in a single profession, ever. But my scanning, which sometimes betrays me, confirms that. Okay, so 1 guard has an innocent below them. So either Hilda or Isaac are gonna be an innocent. Still don't know who though. And Kyle tells us that Celia has exactly 2 innocent neighbors. Okay, since there's gonna be 1 innocent here, the other possible neighbor that could be an innocent is Daniel. So Daniel is one of Hilda's 3 innocent neighbors. We have 1 more to find out. And if it is Isaac, then we know that both Celia and Mark are criminals, but we don't know. Maybe Hilda is an innocent. Now, I guess we don't need Kyle's clue anymore. But Daniel tells us that only 1 of the 7 innocents on the edges is his neighbor. So that tells us that either Celia or Isaac are an innocent. And it also tells us that there's 7 innocents on the edges. What else do we know? How many innocents do we have on the edges already? 1, 2, 3. So we need 4 more. And one of them is going to be here. But that leaves us with lots of people on the edges. Is there something that I'm missing? Exactly, one guard has an innocent directly below them. And only one of the 7 innocents on the edges is my neighbor. We know that Ruby told us that Hilda has 3 innocent neighbors. We already know about 2. Oh, okay, so we know that Hilda has 2 neighbors here, but one of them is Daniel, and Daniel also has an innocent neighbor who is on the edge, and that is going to be Hilda's 3rd innocent neighbor. So we know that either Celia or Isaac are gonna be an innocent. And if I guess this tells us that the 3rd innocent neighbor of Hilda is in here, so we know that Mark is a criminal. Now Mark tells us there is only 1 innocent in row 2. And we know there's 1 innocent here, so Eve has to be a criminal. Now we know that Celia has more criminal neighbors than Paula. And we know that Celia has 3 criminal neighbors total because of Bruce, Flora, and someone else from here. So Paula, who has already 2 criminal neighbors, cannot have 1 more. Vince has to be an innocent. And Vince tells us that only one of the 3 innocents neighboring Logan is Terry's neighbor. Okay, so Logan has 1 innocent neighbor here, and he's gonna have 1 more here, so that's 2. But he has 3 total. And Terry is one of his neighbors, so the only person who could be our 3rd innocent is Susan. And since we know that Logan has 3 total, Terry has to be a criminal. Now Terry tells us that Hilda and Xavier have an equal number of innocent neighbors. We know that Hilda has 3 innocent neighbors total, so Xavier has to have 3 as well, and the last person that Xavier has as a neighbor is Zed. Now Zed tells us that Daniel has exactly 2 innocent neighbors. So we know that Hilda is an innocent as well. And we don't need Zed's clue anymore. And Hilda tells us there are more criminals among cops than any other profession. That's always a tricky clue. So that's where the tricky comes from. Cops, more criminals and cops. Criminals and cops. Criminals. Cops. Where are the cops? We have Ruby, Terry, and there are 2 cops. Do we have any other professions that have 2 criminals? We have 2 doctors, so we know that Paula is a criminal as well, so that they can be in more number than the doctors. What clue was that? Hilda's. Don't need Terry's clue. I guess now we count the innocents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 is gonna be either Celia or Isaac, so Xavier has to be our 7th innocent. And oh, now we know that Celia is the guard who has an innocent below her. So Isaac has to be a criminal because he's also below a guard, and Celia is our last innocent. That was it. Nice, under 12 minutes. A tricky one who was very interesting. I guess the only tricky thing was that profession one. I missed the harder ones. Damn, I gotta get the pack. But that will be it for today. If you enjoyed it, like the video. If you want to see more Clues by Sam, I'm here every day doing the same thing to practice. I do play some other games on my channel as well. I live stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you want to check me playing another game, I have a gameplay of Victorio up, which is a puzzle platformer that's really cute. And you can subscribe to the channel if you want to keep seeing more. I'll see you tomorrow with more Clues by Sam. Bye for now.